Here at World Radio Gardening, we like to get out and see a grower occasionally. And here we are. Look at that. What a sight for sore eyes. Violas in their, well, I suppose thousands. Here we are at Meadow Croft Nurseries. I'm lucky to have to, I just can't believe it. You just scan round. But I'm going to talk to Michael, because Michael, you look after things here. You run it.
Yeah.
We've seen huge changes over the years, haven't we, with bedding. This is traditional bedding, but in fact, tell me the changes, because you've been now growing for how many years?
Well, not me personally, but the nursery's been growing since 1939, and we've been doing what people call bedding probably for most of that time. Obviously, during the war it was more vegetables, but after that it was bedding. These days, we don't almost like saying bedding, it's almost a dirty word. We almost call it seasonal colour, but traditional bedding has changed. I can't particularly remember, but when in the 70s and 80s...
Your dad tells you.
Yeah, he does tell me. And you see photos, there was big bedding displays. People would that would be part of their annual job in their house to create their garden. And that was in the flower beds themselves. These days, sorry, that's the vents going up. These days, people, that you don't see so much of that. So we probably sell less volume of smaller plants, but we sell bigger plants. We sell plants that are garden ready, and people are decorating their gardens. Of course, you see that period in April to June when people are going out there and creating their gardens, but now, it's very different.
Now, this time of the year, you know, violas, when people started putting violas in their gardens that we're looking at now, possibly from what, late autumn?
Yeah, absolutely, and they're incredibly hardy. They put up with all kinds of weather. They put up with the heat as well. So it's very important with violas. I think you've got a very long enjoyment of that product. So anything, if you plant it in the autumn, that's probably going to go through to
May, June,
yeah. July even. If you, I mean, I've seen them being cut back and they'll come back a bit. They've probably run out a bit of energy by then, but definitely, I think you'd say June. We have a trial actually at the RHS Wisley at the moment, where that was planted in November, and it's rained and it's been cold, and I was expecting the worst, but I don't think I think we saw out of all the plants that were planted, we only saw one plant had died, and everything is looking really fresh and good, and has already got lots of colour on, and you just can see that there's so much promise there, and that's going to we're only going to judge that for up until sort of April time, but now we've said no, these are too good.
They're going to go on.
Yeah, they're going to go on and on, and we're going to leave them there as long as possible.
How many varieties of viola are you actually growing yourselves, roughly?
Well, in here, this is for our festival, so we actually get genetics from all over the world. I mean, the breeding industry of plants is huge, and it's not. I don't think people actually understand what's going on in the background, and there's big international companies that are breeding their colours and different genetics, for different habits, for different places in the garden.
You've got trailing ones even now.
Yeah, we've got some trailing ones, and actually there's some trailing ones over there. They can do all sorts of things. They're edible as well. But I think we've got about 260 different varieties here, and that isn't all of the varieties that are commercially viable. We were missing a couple of breeding lines this year, but I mean that's a very wide spectrum of them.
Because you do at Meadow Croft at the Garden Centre, you do a festival, don't you, of violas to show people what is available and all the different colours and availability. When does that actually happen?
That happens in, I'm probably going to get you caught me out here.
About which month?
It happens in March.
That's all
and
right.
I think it starts on the 9th of March, I believe, and it lasts for 2 weekends.
But violas, I'm going to just, if we look down at them, we talked about big pots, and in fact, how many plants in there? Is there three?
There's 3 plants in those. Yeah.
So 3 plants in a pot, and that's a what size pot is that?
That's a 13 centimetre. I think some people call that a litre pot. It's the same.
Roughly a litre.
Yeah.
And that is the difference. Whereas we used to use what I would call a 3.5-inch pot,
I think it's 9 centimetres.
which is a 9 centimetre, with a single plant in it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying. What you're really saying is that people now would come and buy these. They will fill their pots around their house. They fill a few troughs
Yep.
and put a bit in between the plants. But it's not bedding, is it?
No, but
Decorating is what you
it's
said.
decorating, but we still sell an awful lot. You can see here, we also still sell an awful lot of plants. It's just they are used differently. The fashions change, don't they?
And the colours change.
Colours
as well.
change all the time.
For
Absolutely.
fashion.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is
But here
actually
you've
the
got so
most-
many colours. So I think you've pretty much got all the colours of the rainbow here.
Tell me what the fashionable one is. What would you say fashion this year?
This year, that is going to be really difficult. I mean,
What do you think you're selling the most of then?
We tend to sell quite a lot of the faces, so they have two different colours there. That's why it's so difficult.
Faces are popular.
Yeah, faces are popular, particularly with violas, I think.
And teddy bear ones, aren't there?
There's teddy bear ones. It's all sorts of different types. As you can see here, there's ones here. Shall I get that one? There's a tiger.
Yeah, let's have a look at that.
It's called a tiger eye.
Tiger eye. Just
Post
look
it.
at that. Is, I mean, they are gorgeous, aren't
Yeah, they're stunning. And these are just, you can see the work that's been done. We used to see the tiger eye violas. They've been breeding those for quite a long time, but the plant itself would be very weak and almost not really commercial enough for us to grow, and also flower very late. We need everything to flower pretty much like robots. You know, we need that in modern breeding. And as you can see here, these now are flowering exactly the same time as everything else, and on a good plant, and that's the improvements that are made. We've been doing the festival for over 20 years now, and the improvements are just incredible. Where 20 years ago I'd have had half this greenhouse would have been green, some things would have been too big, some things would have been invisible.
Not anymore. Not
It's
anymore.
like a carpet now, and
Carpet.
that's the
the
work that's going on in the background, and I don't think people really appreciate that. Yeah.
And that actually costs money, which people don't appreciate either.
Absolutely, there's a big industry behind it that nobody understands. I think that people think that plants are just grown in the back garden.
Just grown in the garden.
Yeah, or back behind the garden centre, and they pull them around when they're ready. And yeah, I mean, we have a lot of very highly trained people, skilled growers who understand the plants, the botany, what's going on, and the timing, timings of waterings, of spacings, of plantings. It's all essentially, you've got to get that right.
We shouldn't just miss out. I mean, you've talked about all those things that are so important to get it right, but what people also don't appreciate is how long it's taken. So to get the plant to that saleable stage. So,
Yeah.
I mean, looking at these plants, when were they actually sown?
These were sown in the third week of September, I think. I'm pretty sure that's the third week of September.
And now we're in spring.
We're in spring now, and it changes so much through the year, and that's where your education. You have to be, have to get your timings right. So, we have to hit all those windows of flowering to make sure there's colour in the garden centres all year round. So this was, as we said, this was grown in, sown in September.
So what do you sow
And
them
then-
into originally?
A small
A
plug, a small
like
plug.
people would think at home as a plug plant.
Yeah, plug plant.
And then the
absolutely.
plug plant is put into this
It's
pot
transplanted
here, machine,
automatically with machines, free at a pot, and now
and off they grow.
So everything will be, the pots will be filled automatically, it'll be split into their marketing their trays, and then filled automatically, planted, and then taken onto the nursery, where
Where you look after
we
them,
look after them. Yeah,
like your own children.
absolutely. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So really, it's the thing to remind people when they're buying a viola or any plant in a garden centre is really think behind what has happened to get your plant looking so lovely.
There's a lot of work on that. Okay. And these varieties would have been probably 7 years in breeding programs before they even became available. So it's a long story.
We didn't mention actually, what does one of those sell for now then? Roughly. You don't know?
I think it's about $2.99.
That's quite a good price really
Yeah.
for 3 plants in
Yeah.
a pot that's taken you from September to
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I'm just going to pan through that to let people see the glorious colours, because they really are absolutely glorious. And it's a reminder, you heard what Michael said, you can use violas in your garden right up until beyond Easter. And then, of course, he'll be back down here buying more plants that he's growing for the summer. Look at those lines, they're all in line, look at that. Geometrically put in there, absolutely gorgeous. And they are. That's World Radio Gardening reporting from Meadow Croft Nursery.